Hello everyone, good morning, good evening. Welcome to another PMP Q&A session. Today we will be discussing 10 more questions and these questions are from the entire exam content outline. Please confirm if my voice is loud and clear. Am I audible? All right, okay,
Yes.
let's start question number 1.
I'm gonna be outside. Huh?
All right. Basma, you have chosen option D.
Yikes. Well, actually, because I thought that if I go with the sea leveling will mean that I am going to have to prolong, I will have to extend the time of the project, and that's something we're trying not to have. And then the B, reassigning some tasks to less busy team. I don't know if that will work, because I believe the productivity is all through the team. The productivity decrease is through the team, and you cannot continue with the current plan. You cannot. It's not a solution to motivate or give incentives. They're tired. They need a solution.
All
That's why I
right.
thought.
Thank you for a detailed explanation. All right. Carlos, you have chosen option D.
Yeah, I chose option D because resource leveling may affect critical path, and resource smoothing, you can use the total float without affecting the critical path. That's why I chose option D.
All right, thank you. Rudy, you have chosen option D.
Yeah, I was kind of deciding between C and D, but after listening to Carlos and the young lady, I agree that with that resource leveling that we'd have to extend the deadline, and it looks like the stakeholders want them to meet new deadlines, so they don't want to extend the deadline, so that's why I chose D.
All right, thank you. Okay, Robin, you have chosen option C.
Yes, option D. I didn't go with that because the project remains on track. Put me off because the project isn't on track. It's currently behind schedule, according to the first sentence. And then B, the overtime, I was put off with that. Continue with the current plan. We're behind schedule. That one didn't seem to gel. So I went with C. And I believe that revising the project schedule doesn't necessarily mean that you're extending the deadline. You could be adjusting it to finish in time, if I can put it that way.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation. So let's read the question. It says you are the PM for a software development project that is currently behind schedule. Okay, so to meet new deadlines set by stakeholders, you assign additional tasks to your already busy team members. So what you have done, your project is behind schedule. And as a result of that, you assign additional tasks to your already busy team members. After a few weeks, you observe a significant decrease in productivity, increased error rates, and reports of team members feeling overwhelmed and stressed. What's the best course of action to address this situation? Okay. Option D, apply resource smoothing to handle the additional task and ensure the project remains on track. What is resource smoothing? Resource smoothing is, for example, if team members on average, they work, let's suppose, 40 hours per week. So what we will be doing, we will ask them to work for 50 hours. And this is what exactly he has already done. If you read the statement again, it says, to meet the deadline, you assign additional tasks to your already busy team members. This is resource smoothing. So smoothing is you do not extend your deadline and you put more burden on your team members. So instead of 40 hours, they would be working 50 hours a week. So this is what you have already done. And as a result of that, there is a significant decrease in productivity, increased error rates, and reports of team members feeling overwhelmed. So D cannot be the right answer because D is the cause of the problem. You did D, and that's why you saw decrease in productivity. Option A, continue with the current plan, but provide additional incentives. No, we don't do that. As Basma mentioned, we need to do something because there is a decrease in productivity. Option B, reassign some tasks to less busy team members. It's already written your team, entire team productivity has gone down. So we are not sure if there is any option to do that. So correct answer is go for resource leveling. Leveling is the option where you can reduce burnout by minimizing the work. So even if it extends the deadline. So the problem here is reduced productivity, increased error rates, and reports of team members feeling overwhelmed. So there could be two options, either add resources or do resource leveling. So correct answer is option C, resource leveling. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Francis, you have chosen option B and C.
Yeah, I think I went by elimination, and it makes sense to me for B by implementing like a resource management plan, so you can track all the resources, make sure like everything is located, where it's supposed to be. And then I chose also C because if you can visualize all the resources and identify the potential where you overallocate them. So I don't know anything about the resource breakdown structure. So that's why I eliminated that one. And the rest two don't make sense to me.
All right, thank you. Monica, you have
Yeah.
chosen option B and E.
Yeah, so I eliminated the first one because obviously you don't want to hire additional resources, cost more money. I also eliminated C because I was thinking histogram is for defects. So I've never heard of a resource histogram. And then I don't think develop a resource breakdown structure to categorize and track resource types. I haven't heard of a resource breakdown structure. So then I was left with B and E original, and I picked E, and then I reread it and said choose two. So I picked B and E because a resource calendar will show you when resources are available, and then I know I'm very familiar with the resource management plan.
All right, thank you for a detailed explanation. Robin, you have chosen option C and E.
Yes, with great difficulty, I thought they all had a place. But if I start off with E, a resource calendar to track the availability of each resource. Okay, that would improve visibility, as is what's requested as an approach in the question. And the histogram to visualize resource allocation. I couldn't actually remember the histogram that we used in this instance, but it did seem to fit with managing resources effectively. So that's why I chose C and E.
All right, thank you for detailed explanation. So let's read the question. It says, you're managing a construction project and face challenges due to insufficient tracking of resource availability and workload. So you want to track two things. One, resource availability, right? And second, workload. So these are the two things that you want to track. Now, option number one, hire additional resources to distribute. It has nothing to do with tracking. So you can simply eliminate this, right? So we can eliminate option A. Option B, implement a robust resource management plan to track and manage resource availability and workload. Okay. Resources management plan, it contains guidelines and processes. Guideline and processes. Like what would be the resource management process, how resources would be hired, how resources would be managed, right? Which tools and techniques we will be using, what are templates and formats. So it contains general guidelines on how resources would be managed. So it does not give you information about actual resource availability or resource utilization. So it provides you guidelines, but it doesn't give you information about actual resource utilization. So you can eliminate B. Option C, resource histogram. So we discussed the concept of histogram in quality, but it's a very powerful concept in resource as well. So resource histogram, it is used to monitor utilization of resources. So it is in the form of a bar chart, something like that. Let me draw it here. So over time, you see, for example, this is your planned resources. These are your available resources. Again, planned resources for next duration, available resources. Again, planned resources, then available resources. So you can visually see how many resources you planned and how many resources were actually available. So you can see actual resource utilization by using resource histogram, right? And sometimes you see a stacked histogram. Now, what is stacked histogram? Stacked histogram has information about different categories of of resources. So for example, let's suppose this is for business analysts. There would be another color. This is for project managers. There could be another color. Let's suppose this is for, let's suppose, project coordinators or developers or anyone. And similarly, then you can see their actual availability. So similarly, there would be another stack part like this. So just give me a second. So this is how they are available. And so something like that. So now you can visually see how many resources we planned and how many resources were actually available. So actual resource utilization can be seen by developing a resource histogram. So one of the options is use a resource histogram. So this is correct. Option 4, develop a resource breakdown structure, RBS. Resource breakdown structure is just for categorization purposes. You categorize resources in different categories, right? So it's a hierarchical chart in which you break down your your resources in different categories. So for example, you have all resources on top, and then you have, let's suppose, material resources, human resources. Within human, you have skilled resources. You have non-skilled resources. Under skilled, you have, let's suppose, engineers, business analysts, right? Developers. You understand? So now this is called resource breakdown structure. You break down resources in different categories. It has nothing to do with actual resources availability and utilization. Last option, utilize a resource calendar. So I hope it is clear to you. Resource calendar tells you availability of resources, right? When each resource is available. So we want to track two things. We want to track availability and we want to track the workload. So correct answer is option C and option E. Let's read the explanation. So there is a question, are work breakdown structure, resource breakdown structure, and risk breakdown structure are the only breakdown structures? There are others as well. For example, organizational breakdown structure, right? OBS, in which you break down the organization in different departments, right? So there are 5 to 6 total breakdown structures. All right, next question. All right. Vivek, you have chosen option D.
Yes, Subha. So I was between like option C and D. Option A I have eliminated because like it's team members' observation, like observing their actions will not actually help to uh, resolve the situation. And again, the team building activity is not a first step. We should do that activity, but it's not the first step that we should, the project manager should take. So to understand the situation, either he should hold a meeting with team members, or they should talk to like one-to-one with project manager to share their concerns. So where D is like more of a bilateral communication where a team member can freely share their opinions. So I have selected option D.
All right, thank you. Vivek, you mentioned A is not a solution. Why? A shouldn't be the first step. Why?
Since the teams are like got divided into two groups, and there must be some reasons behind it, and we need to understand those reasons. But only observing why they are like divided into two groups will not actually help.
So you're saying just observation would not be helpful. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
He should intervene, actually.
Thank you. Francis, you have chosen option B.
Yes, I've chosen option B, but I think after hearing what Vivek said, I think B is more for proactive action. Before you organize a team and build activity, you have to first to analyze, which is the first step that we do. So I'm having a second thought that we have. Yeah, with the options available, I think I would go with the C. Yeah, I chose B, but I think I'll go with C.
Why? Why
Because
C?
So I'll go with C because I think I'll discuss, because I suspect, so I'm not sure what's going on in the team. So if by holding a meeting and actually, raise a point, I may be able to, then after that meeting, and then I can go with A, which is observations, if they're improving, or they're changing their way of working, if they're more cohesive, if they're trying to collaborate. And then, so yeah, that's why I would go with C.
All right. Thank you, Francis. Okay, Robin, you have chosen option C.
I still think I may have gone wrong by not choosing B, but I was stuck between B and C. And I decided that holding a meeting to discuss the issues and encouragement to the whole of the team to share their concerns would be the best solution. So that's why I chose C.
All right. Robin, what's wrong with option D?
That's holding one-on-one meetings with team members. I felt, that would take its place, but it wouldn't be as effective as doing it as a team, because the issue is in the team.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation. So let's read the question. It says you suspect that team members are divided into groups and there is a lack of cohesion and harmony. So means you're not certain about the situation, right? Okay. What is the first action that you should take? So for me, the first action should be observe team members' action for some time to understand the actual situation, because you want to understand the situation. But as observation is helpful, talking to team member is much better as compared to just observing. Means option A suggests that first you try to understand the situation. So understanding the situation makes sense. But to understand, the best course of action is talk to team members, right? As we have been discussing again and again, have direct communication, have face-to-face communication. So communication is the best form if you want to understand a situation. So that's why I can eliminate option A, right? So we won't be just observing. We will be talking to team members. Option B, organize a team building activity. Yes, it's great, but first you need to understand the situation, then you will be taking the action. Option C and D. So as Robin mentioned, D is a good choice, but since it's a team problem, it's not an individual problem. We conduct one-on-one meeting where there are privacy concerns or when there is a problem between two individuals, let's suppose. So we can talk to both, right? Separately, try to understand their concern. Since it's a team problem, so we will be talking to team and we will be encouraging them to share their thoughts and concerns. So the most effective option here is option C, holding a meeting with the team and encourage them to share their thoughts. All right, so C is correct. Let's read the explanation.
Hi, Amar. Suhas here. Hello. Am I audible, Amar? Hello.
Okay, please wait. Let everybody read the explanation. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, in the question, I feel, option A is a better choice because we are suspecting it, right? We are not sure. I mean, if it was saying that the team is not cohesive and, they are finding it, we are just suspecting it. So observing it for sometimes may actually help here, right? Uh, because this is just an observation. It could be that we held the team meeting and then the team may say that this is not the case, right? So observing it for some time and then holding the meeting is a better option.
Yes, this is what I explained. By observing what you want to do, you want to understand the situation, right? So best form is talk to team members. And if they say, no, we don't have any problem, it's perfect, it's fine. So communicating directly is the most effective solution here. So observation could be wrong, right? So rather than observing and waiting, and you already know there is something, right? And you have some, you have some observation. That's why you suspect. So if you already have some observation, again, you're observing, that would not be helpful, right? So if you have some observation, you're not sure, talk to team member, try to understand their concern. If they say no, there is no issue, perfect. If they say yes, there is an issue, you can solve that. So A is a kind of repetition of thing which is already being done. As a result of that, you got the idea. C is the right solution. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, next question. All right, Basma, you have chosen option D.
And that's because I cannot tell the customer it's unrealistic. I need to come up with a better solution, then I need more time. B, discuss with the team to compress the schedule is also not a solution because I'm putting a pressure on them, more pressure on them. C, I cannot not commit to a deadline. That is not part of a project manager work, which is why I was thinking, okay, maybe I should come up with why I cannot give him this time and then tell the customer this is why I cannot your timeline is not realistic. That's why I chose D.
All right. So you said option C, you haven't chosen option C because as a project manager, your job is to commit something, right? To give some sort
Correct.
of deadline.
Correct.
But Basma, in D, are you giving any deadline in D?
No,
Because
I'm just saying, look, this planning, the way you did it is incorrect. You have to come up with another deadline.
so it means you're not committing.
Correct. Yeah, true.
So you're doing the same
I
thing
see
in
your
C
point.
and D, right?
I see your point. I see your point. Okay. Okay, I get your point.
All right. Thank you. Monica, you have chosen option A.
Yeah. So my thought was tell the customer that it's unrealistic and therefore you need more time. Because I've seen similar questions where you would say, share that it's not realistic and attempt to meet it anyways or something like that. So that's kind of what I was thinking was transparency with the customer.
All right. Thank you. That's a good point. You should be transparent, you should be direct, and you should be upfront, right? If you have something, you should communicate it. That makes sense. Okay. Palmer, you have chosen option C.
Yes, sir. Because I cannot commit to the deadline if it's unrealistic. All I need before I can commit to the deadline, I need more time for detailed planning so that there won't be any project hiccup on the way.
What's wrong with option D, Palmer?
Conducting scientific planning during the kickoff meeting. Come on with it's not. This is not all about me. It's about myself and the team. And if everybody is saying it that is unrealistic, which type of scientific planning do I need to conduct at that time? Conducting that planning will take time, another time too, because it's not on the list of the project schedule before. So it's like bringing in a new thing and trying to find a way around it. So I want to force myself to please the customer and displease myself and the team. So before I can do anything like that, I need to consider the team, myself, before I commit to that changes.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation.
You're welcome.
Kokila, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, Mer. So just because it is a high-level project schedule meeting, it presented. I mean, it's a kickoff meeting, and the customer requests for 8 months. Maybe the team should discuss if they can compress the schedule in some way or the other. So that's why I chose that, because the other things doesn't help the customer, because they may have some realistic valid points for them to release in 8 months. So how can we make that 8 months was the focus, right? So
all right. Thank you for detailed explanation. Okay, let's read the question. It says, during a kickoff meeting, you presented the high-level project schedule. So first thing, it's not detailed, right? It's a high-level schedule. It's not detailed. The customer requests to complete the project in 8 months, but the deadline seems unrealistic. So 8 months long deadline, it seems unrealistic to you, right? You haven't done any analysis, but just based on customer request, it looks like it's unrealistic. Now, option A, tell the customer that it is unrealistic and therefore you need more time. Before analysis, you cannot tell the customer like it is unrealistic. You're not sure about it. It's just a request and it seems unrealistic. So you need to do some analysis. You need to find ways, like if there is any way in which we can fulfill this demand. Maybe one of the option could be you can compress the schedule. Another option could be you can, you can add resources, you can do crashing, fast tracking, you can reduce the scope, or you can divide the scope in different sections. So there are multiple options that you can discuss. So we have been discussing this again and again. If you're not sure about a situation, if you haven't done the analysis, don't take the action. First, try to understand the situation. So in option A, you're taking the action. You have assumed that, yes, it is unrealistic and there is no other way to fulfill customer demand. If you have done that detailed analysis, then definitely you can go with option A. And I like the point that Monica raised, that is transparency. We do that, right? And we discussed some of the questions where we were certain like this is not possible. So we were very direct and we told the customer like this is not possible. And this is how we should be, right? But here, since we haven't done the analysis, we are not sure about the situation, we haven't analyzed the alternatives, so we cannot just say we can't do that. If we have done the analysis, then option A would have been the right answer. So in the absence of analysis, first we will be doing that, and then we will be coming up with the right option. So A can't be the right answer in this situation. But if you're sure, as I mentioned, then transparency and option A would have been the correct answer. Convene a team meeting to discuss how to compress the schedule, right? How to compress the schedule. Now, again, you are taking an action. So before understanding the situation, if it is really unrealistic or realistic, or if there is any other option, instead of just compressing, you can do fast tracking. You can, as I have given you options, there are multiple options that you can take. So compressing the schedule is again an action, and it is based on an assumption that it is unrealistic. So you're not sure about that, so you won't be taking an action. So B can't be the right answer. Option C and D, do not commit to any deadline and request more time for detailed planning. And option D, conduct scientific planning to come up with a realistic timeline. So this really makes sense. Like, since it's a high-level plan, you need to do detailed planning to come up with the realistic timeline, right? Then you were better positioned to talk to the customer. Okay, this is what we have done. And based on our analysis, these are the real deadlines, or 10 months, 11 months, 9 months, 13 months. This is what we can do. And anything less than that is not possible. But the question says, what should be your response to the customer's request, right? So yes, D makes sense, but what you would be doing with the customer during that meeting, right? So first, do not commit to the 8 months long duration. Don't say, yes, we will be doing that. And don't say we won't be doing that. So don't go to either extremes. Don't say yes, we will be completing the project in 8 months. And don't say, no, it's unrealistic. We can't do that. First, do the analysis and then come up with the right deadline and then communicate with the stakeholders. So correct answer is option C. Do not commit to any deadline and request more time for detailed planning. Because it's a high-level plan and customer requests something, you say, okay, let me do the detailed planning and I'll get back to you. So correct answer is option C. Let's read the explanation. Okay, if you have any comment or a different point of view, please do not hesitate. Just share. You can unmute yourself or you can raise it right in the chat window. All right, next question. All right. Robin, you have chosen option D, I guess.
What I considered is the project is going well, but in the circumstances, the team members aren't punctual and they don't agree to office timings. So there's a bit of a red flag that things could go wrong. So I would say the ideal way to put that right is to communicate with them and to get them aboard to doing things correctly.
All right. Thank you. Rudy, you have chosen option D.
Yes, sir. So option A, reinforced ground rules. That's good. A lot of flexibility since the project is ahead. No. C, review and redefine ground rules collaboratively. That's also a possibility, but I chose D. I think that, just from my past experience, which I'm figuring out is not the PM my way, because I've been doing this for like decades. I would just get them together and say, hey, this is my concern. Y'all are coming in late, or, just get everybody on the same page. So that's why I chose D.
All right. Thank you for sharing your actual experience. That is really helpful. Okay. Carlos, you have chosen option D.
Yeah, same as Rudy. I think the best option is to first open up and let them know the concern, and then maybe they'll come up with why it's happening, and then C and A can happen later.
All right. Thank you. So Has, you have chosen option C.
Yeah, actually, there's team not being punctual and not adhering to agreed office time. So I think the agreed is what I felt is the keyword. So if we are not agreeing, and since there is no something like, we are not lacking in schedule or in budget, I feel we can review and, collaboratively agree on something. Maybe that is needed for, if the timings are needed, we can readjust it, right? So that's the reason I chose option C. Although option D also makes sense because we are just communicating and asking the team, informing that this is a concern. Instead, because the word is agreed, I thought option C is better.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation. Okay. Kokila, you have chosen option C.
Yeah, Amar. Basically, because the team is doing good, and some team members like flexibility, so I thought it is better to review with the team and refine the ground rules collaboratively.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation. So let's read the question again. It says your project is on track and within budget, means all good, right? However, team members are not punctual and do not adhere to agreed office timings. What should the project manager do first? Okay, I emphasize like you need to read the question till the last word. So if it says what should be your first action, what should be your next action, what is your best course of action, in all three situations, answer would be different. If it says first, the option would change from C to D or B to C, right? So reading the question completely is one thing that you should do. So what's the first thing that you need to do? The very first thing. So you have seen something which is visible, which is clear, it is understood, right? Now what you should do, reinforce ground rules. I mean, reinforcing ground rules makes sense, yes. But again, first of all, you need to have that conversation. You need to understand the situation, why it's happening. Reinforcing ground rules is taking an action, right? If we say what's the best course of action, maybe A is the best course of action, right? Or C is the best course of action, or B is the best course of action. So A can't be the right answer. Before understanding the situation, you can do that. Option B, allow flexibility since the project is ahead of targets. No, I mean, I like Kokila's point. Like some team members, they like flexibility, but not all. And allowing flexibility is not the only option, right? Sometimes even if you are on track, you need to have some sort of order, right? So just you are ahead of schedule, you don't allow flexibility, right? Now option C and D, review and redefine ground rules collaboratively. And option D, communicate your concern to the team members. Option C is really good, like review and redefine ground rules collaboratively, but there is no indication in the question that says that there is something wrong with ground rules, right? Ground rules, the problem is people are not following those ground rules. So the very first thing is you need to communicate your concern with the team members. And as Rudy mentioned, this is how practically we do. If we observe something and that is happening, we first communicate with the team members and try to understand what's going on, why you're late. And maybe they say, this is because of reason A and we'll fix it. This is because of B. This is because of a lot of workload. This is because of this. So first of all, you need to understand the situation. And for understanding, talk to team member. And maybe then the next action would be reviewing and redefining ground. When they say agreed office timings, bring a lot of, rigid schedule, and we can do that. We need some sort of flexibility, and then you can go with review and redefining ground rules collaboratively. So the first action is you need to communicate with the team member. So correct answer is option D. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Mohan, you have chosen option D.
Yeah, so basically the question says the project manager is fostering the process of innovation and risk taking, right? And however the stakeholders are not happy about it. So with the current level of project risk exposure. So I guess the issue here is just the tolerance level of the stakeholders was not taken into consideration, which is D. I mean, A, which is lack of risk-based reporting. I don't think it's a communication issue with the stakeholders because they're already saying that they're concerned. Misalignment about the value of risk taking. So I don't know if it's a value related to, it's an issue related to the value. Stakeholders were not involved in the risk identification process. I don't think this is related. So I feel like D might be the best response.
All right, thank you for detailed explanation. Basma, you have chosen option B.
Yes, the problem is, I think that taking risks brings innovation and creativity. The client, the stakeholder, they are not happy because they think that the level of project risks, the current is not, it's too much exposure, So there is a misalignment between me and the stakeholder. And this is what caused the misunderstanding.
All right, thank you. So Basma is saying there is a misunderstanding about the value of risk management in projects. Okay. Let's take one more comment. Palmer, you have chosen option C. Palmer, you are on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. I believe in this case, the project manager did not involve the stakeholders while identifying all those risks or taking those risks. And, if he had involved them during this process, there's no way they will, if they want it, they won't be unhappy about it. But because they don't know anything about the risk he's trying to take, even though the result of the risk, we value the project. If he needs to put the stakeholder into consideration when taking such risk. That's the reason why.
All right, thank you for detailed explanation. So I thought this would be the easiest question, but I think most of you have not chosen option D because I started with option D. Maybe this is my assumption. I could be wrong. Okay, let's read the question. It says, as a PM, you believe that taking risk fosters innovation and creativity. So project manager on one side we have PM. On the other side, we have stakeholders. So PM says, or PM believes, taking risk fosters innovation. So means PM is a risk taker. So there are two categories of stakeholders, actually three: risk taker, risk averse, and risk neutral. On the other hand, stakeholders are unhappy with the current level of project risk exposure. So we can say either they are risk averse or they are risk neutral. So this is the problem. Project manager is a risk taker because they believe risk should be there, because if you take risk, you bring innovation and creativity. And stakeholders, they are not happy, so they are risk averse. Now let's read the options. Option A, lack of risk-based reporting to the stakeholder. So as Mohan mentioned, it's not a communication problem, right? There is a misalignment between stakeholders and product manager regarding how they perceive risk, how they take risk, right? Option B, misalignment about the value of risk management. So none of them saying risk management shouldn't be done. So there is no dispute on value of risk management. So risk management is valuable for both. Product manager is not saying we shouldn't do risk management. Product manager is saying we should do risk management, but we should take more risks. Taking risks does not mean we should not do risk management. So there is no conflict on the value of risk management, because there is no mention that one party is saying we should not do risk management, other is saying we should do risk management. So there is no conflict on that. So option B is also irrelevant. Option C, stakeholders were not involved during the risk identification phase. So risk identification stage or phase, it's a process where you identify risk. So the issue is not about risk identification. It doesn't say you have not identified a risk, or a stakeholder comes to you and says, hey, this is a risk, you didn't involve me, or they are giving you a list of risks. So there is no indication of that. Option D, stakeholders' risk appetite was not taken into consideration. So appetite is willingness to take risk. So as a PM, my willingness to take risk is high. And I think taking risk is, useful for the project. However, I should not manage project based on my risk appetite or my willingness. As a project manager, we should take stakeholders' appetite into consideration. Like what is their willingness to take the risk? So in this example, stakeholders' willingness to take risk is lesser as compared to project manager. So if we have taken that appetite into consideration, then project manager's view would have been different. So the only problem in this question is misalignment between risk appetite, and that's why option D is correct. All other options are incorrect. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question.
Amit, one question. So in the previous question, it says that they are not exposed, right? They are unhappy about the exposure. So they are not saying anything about whether whether they are averse or what kind of risk taker they are, right? They are saying they are not exposed. They are not getting the right amount of information. So so why not option C over D? Because they might be not getting this information because they were not involved in the identification process.
So they're saying stakeholders are unhappy with the current level of project risk exposure, means they have information. They know that risk exposure is too high. That's why they are not happy. So there is no information that says that there is lack of communication. They have information. That's why they are unhappy. So they're not saying we are unhappy because we are not receiving the information. They're saying we are unhappy because the level of exposure is not right. Project is exposed to a high risk, which is not acceptable. So information is there. There is no ambiguity. There is no confusion. The only problem is that there is misalignment. PM says whatever level of risk exposure is, it should be there because it brings innovation and creativity. And on the other hand, stakeholders think otherwise. So it's not an information problem. The problem is misalignment. You understand?
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
All right, next question. All right, Monica, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, so it says notice that tasks are frequently delayed. There's a lack of clarity about responsibilities and scope creep. So my head goes to scope management plan, stakeholder register. So I said the project communication plan is ineffective. I don't know if that's right though.
All right, thank you. Manmeet, you have chosen option C.
The reason why I picked option C, because to my understanding, WBC is when we provide detailed information about each, work package, like we organize work required within the project. And it also helps in the scheduling and allocating the, the estimate, the effort, and it also helps to identify the scope risks and keeps us on track with the scope mentioned. So that's why I picked option C, that it's most likely WBC has not been developed. That's why there's a scope creep and there's unclarity about the responsibilities to team members.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation. Okay, Rudy, you have chosen option C.
Yes, just like the previous caller, I think that the project schedule is not detailed enough. Doesn't really have anything to do with the team members being unclear about their responsibilities. Well, maybe, the project communication plan is ineffective. That's a possibility, but I thought the strongest one was C, the work breakdown structure was not developed or not developed properly.
All right, thank you. Robin, you have chosen option C.
Yes, I also went through A, B, and D, and I didn't find any of those to have any sort of influence on scopes creep. So I went with C.
All right. So you think communication has nothing to do with scope creep, or stakeholders engagement has nothing to do with scope creep?
No, maybe I didn't go enough into detail on why I chose C.
All right, all right.
But,
Thank you for
yeah.
explanation. Okay. Let's read the question. So it says, during the execution phase of a project, you notice that tasks are frequently delayed, team members are unclear about their responsibilities, and there is significant scope creep. What's the most likely reason for these issues? So the project schedule is not detailed enough. Schedule has nothing to do with it, right? Schedule has nothing to do with responsibilities, and as Robin mentioned, scope creep. The project communication plan is ineffective. Yeah, this is a good choice. This could be an option. So let's mark it as a good choice, and then we will be evaluating it. Work breakdown structure was not developed. So WBS is hierarchical decomposition of total project scope. So as Manmeet mentioned, we break down or we decompose the total project scope into smaller and more manageable sections. And we use WBS for communication purposes, for assigning roles and responsibility, and managing scope. Option D, the project stakeholders are not sufficiently engaged. So could be the right answer, or it's also a good choice, similar to option B. So B and C are almost similar. So stakeholders are not engaged, or communication plan is not effective. But these two options, B and C, they do not directly address the problem. So they are very generic. So we go with the specific option. This is what we have been learning again and again. So the only option that deals with all the problems which are mentioned here is option C, WBS was not developed. When you don't develop WBS, when you do not decompose the scope into smaller and more manageable sections, you cannot allocate work to different team members, because we use WBS for allocation purposes. So roles and responsibilities are defined by taking WBS into consideration. And WBS is used to avoid scope creep, right? Because when you develop WBS, it becomes part of scope baseline, and it's a fundamental document that you use to add, delete, or modify product scope, right? So correct answer is option C. The work breakdown structure was not developed. If you don't have WBS, then there won't be any roles and responsibilities. There won't be any check on scope, and there won't be check on deadlines or timelines, because you use WBS to develop the schedule. So WBS is used to build the schedule. So WBS is an input to build the schedule. So C is the right answer. Let's read the explanation. All right, next question. All right, Carlos, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, I have seen this matrix used before, not only on projects, but also on health and safety. So that's a good option. The other ones I haven't used.
All right. Thank you. Vivek, you have chosen option B.
Yes. Since question is asking that we need to show them the prioritization of the risk with based on the impact and probability. So that's the best metric where we can be showing the probability of occurrence of the risk and what is the impact, how severe it will be.
All right, so you're saying probability impact matrix is the right tool to communicate impact and probability, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Palmer, you have chosen option C.
The major reason why I chose that is because it has to do with risk. And the risk bubble chart is the one that explains the risk and the risk level and how the risk will be taken care of.
All right, but why you haven't chosen other options? Because other options, they also do the same thing, like sensitivity or Monte Carlo. All options are there for risk management. Why only you have chosen option C?
To be sincere, I think the last time I learned about project management, like I told you yesterday, since you really break this down for me better, but my mentor then used to tell me that if there is a question like this that is so sensitive, that the 4 answers listed, similar, and you need to pick one, that you have to pick one that is related to the major question, to the major point in the question, which is risk. If they are talking about risk, just go for anything that is related to the risk in the answer.
That's a good strategy. I like it. But in the exam, you won't be having like that. I intentionally added word risk here so that you don't get confused about what is bubble chart. But risk is with every option. Okay, thank you for explanation.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right. Now let's read it. It says you're managing a project and want to visually communicate the various risks to your stakeholders. So first, it should be a visual tool. Second, prioritizing them based on impact, probability, and urgency. So probability and impact matrix, it's a 2-dimensional matrix that just tells you 2 things, probability and impact. It does not address urgency, so we can eliminate that. I hope it is clear to everybody. So we're talking about 3 factors, impact, probability, and urgency. So probability impact matrix addresses just 2 aspects of risk. Monte Carlo simulation. Monte Carlo simulation is something else. Monte Carlo simulation, it's a scenario analysis that is used to forecast your budget or to know the probability of meeting product targets. So it tells you like there is 70% chance you would be able to complete the project within allocated budget and planned time. So Monte Carlo simulation, it's a scenario-based analysis that we use to understand the confidence level on our estimate. So Monte Carlo simulation is also incorrect. Risk bubble chart and sensitivity analysis. So sensitivity analysis, it's a visual tool for risk prioritization where you see the most important risk, but it does not address probability, impact, or urgency. It just tells you correlation of a risk with project objective. Higher the correlation, higher the impact. So again, it does not address 3 aspects, impact, urgency, and probability. The only option is bubble chart. Bubble chart is a visual representation of different risks in which we can find 3 options. So if I recall, it's something like this, right? So you have let's suppose urgency here. You have probability here, and size of the bubble shows the impact. So visually you can see different risk here, right? I hope you understand. So this is a visual representation in which you can see level of urgency along one axis, level of probability on other axis, and size of the bubble as impact. So there is only one tool that addresses 3 dimensions of risk, which is bubble chart. So correct answer is option C. Let's read the explanation. So thank you, Palmer. Your trick worked. All right. Next
Thank
question.
you.
All right. Carlos, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one. I don't recall seeing anything about this, but I've seen the procurement strategy is the overall plan of how you're gonna approach it. That's what I've seen before, but not sure.
All right, thank you. Robin, you have chosen option C.
I'm also not 100% on this one, but it just appears that that the question all goes back to the bidding document. So that's why I went for C.
All right, thank you. Vivek, you have chosen option B.
I'm also not sure, but I was just kind of eliminating the options. So procurement management plan, which is a high level document, which will like give us the how the procurement will work and who are the like stakeholders engaged into this procurement procedure. But what kind of a method may not be available in the management plan. So procurement strategy is a more relevant document we can refer. That's why I said.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation. Now let's read the question. It says you're not sure about the delivery method. So the key word here is delivery method of your procurement. So there are different delivery methods, like you can have a design build project where the vendor would be designing the project and they would be building the project. And then we have design, build, operate. They would be designing, they would be building, and they would be operating after project delivery. And then we have CMAR, widely used in construction projects. So we hire a firm and they would be responsible for everything regarding project execution. So we call it construction manager at risk. So you're not sure what's the delivery method of your procurement. So which document, which project artifact would be having this information. So procurement management plan, it contains guidelines on how project will be executed or procurements would be conducted. So for example, procurements related processes, procurement related tools and techniques, procurement related templates, procurement related roles and responsibilities. It does not contain any information about delivery method. It just defines the process, what process you would be following to manage the entire procurement cycle. So A can't be the right answer. Procurement strategy. Procurement strategy contains 3 things. One, it contains type of contract. right? Remember, we talked about different type of contracts, right? Fixed price, cost reimbursable, and time and material, and various agile-based contracts. It contains procurement phases, how many phases of procurements we have, and third thing, it contains delivery methods. So question is about delivery methods. So delivery methods are documented in procurement strategy. So B is the right answer. C and D, bidding documents. Bidding documents, these are the documents which help the vendor to submit their bids. It contains specification of the work, right? So bidders or potential vendors, they use bidding documents to submit their bids or offers. And statement of work contains specification of work. So we're not talking about specification of work. We're not talking about bidding. We're talking about delivery method. So correct answer is option B. Let's read the explanation. All right. Last question. All right. Vivek, you have chosen option C.
Yes. So the question is asking about how to gain the confidence to delegate work. So unless we start actually delegating the work, you then will not get the confidence. So the better option is to start actually delegating some task and closely observe the team members' performance, how they are doing that particular task.
All right. Thank you. So Hans, you have chosen option B.
Yeah, I mean, since we are not confident, better to provide some tips, ensure that because we feel that team is not confident enough to handle it.
All right. Thank you. Basma, you have chosen option D.
Okay. The problem is you are hesitating in delegating tasks, and there is micromanagement due to it. To gain the confidence, what should you do to gain the confidence of the team members needed to delegate the work effectively? So we still need to delegate the work, but we need to delegate it effectively without micromanaging. So A, you're still controlling every aspect of the teamwork. B, you are providing support and training, but that's not what they need. C, you start delegating tasks, you are already doing that. D is the communication with the team member, and you track their progress without interfering and without micromanaging. That's why I chose D.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation. So 2 comments. First, you said they don't need training. But most important, you said you are already delegating. So from where you extracted this information, like you're already delegating? Because if we read the statement, it says,
yeah, that's right.
You
I misread it
hesitate
then.
in delegating tasks. So you're not doing that, right?
Yeah, you're right. I misread
Okay.
it.
It's okay. You can reconsider your answers if you like. Meanwhile, let's talk to others. Okay. Mohan, you have chosen option C.
I mean, I chose a counterintuitive option. I mean, obviously the issue is he's hesitant to delegate. Then I think C was probably the best option because I mean, it's kind of like the PDCA, the Edward Deming, where you kind of delegate it and then see how the performance is, and then you can kind of go from there based on the performance of the team as to whether or not you are confident in delegating the work effectively. So
All
that's why
right. All right. Thank you. Rudy, you have chosen option C.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so A, continuously monitor, like's been previously said. That's not, we don't want to micromanage like that. Provide training and support. That's a good thing, but that's not what it says. It says that they're hesitating and delegating tasks. So that's why I chose C, to start delegating tasks and observe team members' performance. So you should still remain flexible, try to see how it's working, but you need to start delegating tasks.
All right. Thank you for detailed explanation. So yes, correct answer is option C. Start delegating tasks and observe team members' performance. Why? Because the problem here is that you lack confidence. How you can gain that confidence? By actually observing team performance. Only then you will be getting more confident or less confident. If you're not delegating, how you get to know if team members are performing well in those tasks or not? So the very first thing that you should do, you should start delegating. And as Mohan mentioned, it's a kind of experimentation. So you do some sort of experimentation, you delegate tasks, and you try to understand how team members are performing. Even if you provide training and support, still that confidence wouldn't be there. Confidence comes into picture when you see the actual progress or actual performance of team members. So correct answer is option C. All other options are incorrect. A, you can easily eliminate that. Provide training, it's a good choice, but not a good choice to have that confidence, right? It's good for skills building. And also one more principle. When you have two options, one is training and second is learning by doing, go with the option where you have more learning by doing. So C is an option where you are teaching delegation skill by making people doing that task, right? If you don't assign that task, then by just providing trainings, maybe they would be getting that theoretical knowledge, but delegation gives them an opportunity to learn how to do things in actual. So when you have these two options, go with the option where you have learning by doing. So option C is correct. Set up regular status meeting to track progress without interference. It is irrelevant to the statement. It does not address the statement, which is hesitation in delegation of the task. So it doesn't say anything about are you delegating or not delegating or what you're doing. Status meeting about what? On one side, you're managing, on the other side, without interference, so it doesn't address the problem. So correct answer is option C. Let's read the explanation. All right, everybody, we are done with today's session. This was really good session. So just write your score in the chat window. What's your score in today's session? 80% for the first time, Mohan. Congratulations. 50%, 60%. Robin, you're improving really good. 50%, 60%. Wonderful, Rudy. 60, 60, 40, 50, 50, 40, 40, 50. Oh, overall, the performance is really good. And I can see people who are getting less score, they are relatively new, right? For example, you have recently taken the course. So don't worry, maybe you have not gone through the content. So I have told you in the last session, I guess, I suggested like after each session, you should have 10 takeaways in the form of pointers, right? So after each session, you should have 10 takeaways. I hope you are continuously writing. If you haven't written, go back and review the recordings and list down 10 lessons or 10 takeaways from today's session, right? That would be really helpful to you. And then you would be compiling these up, and at the end, you will be having 200 or 300 takeaways. So this would be really helpful to you in your exam preparation, right? Also, my next course is starting on July 27th. You can share with your friends, and this is especially for people who are watching on YouTube. So you can simply contact there to find more details. All right, everybody, take good care of yourself. I'll see you tomorrow with an interesting lesson. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.